Act 3, Scene 2 opens once more in Macbeth's castle. Enter Lady Macbeth and a servant. She orders the servant to let Macbeth know that she desires to speak with him. She shows that she is uneasy, seeming to echo Macbeth's sentiments from the previous scene. Naught's had, all spent where our desire is got without content. 'Tis safer to be that which we destroy than by destruction dwell in doubtful joy. In other words, you gain nothing and lose everything if what you have got does not bring you satisfaction. It's better, she says, to be the victim of the murder than to live in the insecure happiness that being the perpetrator has brought. Note the alliteration of the heavy, plosive d sounds here, which effectively communicate the weight of the worry that Lady Macbeth has on her shoulders. What's also interesting is how this part of the speech is in heroic couplets, which Shakespeare usually uses at the end of a scene or the end of a speech as a means of providing a conclusion. What this suggests is that, as far as she is concerned, she will not be sharing her doubts and worries with Macbeth, and she does indeed change her tone when her husband enters. This is the last time that the pair will be completely alone on stage together, where they have the opportunity to speak freely. But we will see that neither is entirely honest with the other. Lady Macbeth about her feelings and Macbeth about his plans, suggesting that their days of this being a joint enterprise are numbered. She tries to jolly him along, chiding him for keeping himself to himself with only his thoughts of Duncan, which should have died when he did, for company. How now, my lord, why do you keep alone? Of sorriest fancies your companions making, using those thoughts which should indeed have died with them they think on. Things that are without all remedy, she says, should be without regard. What's done is done. In other words, there is no point dwelling on things you cannot change. Macbeth uses the imagery of a scorched snake, or of a snake that has merely been wounded, not killed, that will bite after it has healed itself, to communicate his fear that the threat embodied in Duncan's surviving heirs, i.e. Malcolm and Donalbain, and Banquo's own descendants, as foretold by the witches, is still very much alive. He confesses to feeling vulnerable and weak to such an attack, whilst our poor Malice remains in danger of her former tooth. He admits that his actions have had ramifications for the quality of his life as well as the quality of his sleep. But let the frame of things disjoint, both the worlds suffer, with the consequence that we will eat our meal in fear and sleep in the affliction of these terrible dreams that shake us nightly. Macbeth's fears, embodied in the voice he imagined hearing on the night of the murder, telling him that Macbeth does murder sleep, have become a self-fulfilling prophecy, as he reveals that he can no longer eat in comfort or sleep without nightmares. This could also be interpreted as a comment on the way in which actions in the world of men here on earth, the microcosm, have had a knock-on effect on the heavens, the macrocosm. Macbeth echoes his wife's words from earlier in the scene that it would be better to be the murdered Duncan, who is at least now resting in peace, where the threats of the earthly realm, such as steel, poison, malice domestic, foreign levy, cannot touch him further. Lady Macbeth tries to cheer him up. She urges him to be bright and jovial among your guests tonight. Macbeth reminds her that she should be the same, especially in her interactions with Banquo, where she should show him the highest respect in both the way she looks at him and the way she speaks. He tells her to present him eminence both with eye and tongue. They are in unsafe times, he stresses, and they must wash their royal titles in rivers of flattery, all the while shielding what is in their hearts with false faces. that we must lave our honours in these flattering streams and make our faces vizards to our hearts, disguising what they are. This is interesting. Why does he tell Lady Macbeth how she is to behave with Banquo when he knows that he will not be at the feast because he has ordered his murder? Does he fear that she will talk him out of this in the same way that she talked him into the murder of Duncan in the first place? As we can see, deceit is shown to breed deceit, even to the point where Macbeth deceives her about her need to deceive in the first place. When Lady Macbeth tells him that he needs to stop thinking like this, he responds that his mind is full of scorpions, of lethally poisonous thoughts that torment him, because Banquo and his Fleance lives. She tries to reassure him that they are not a threat because they are not immortal. Macbeth agrees. There's comfort yet. They are assailable, i.e., they are vulnerable to attack. Note how Macbeth's language now turns to the dark side as he anticipates the murder, conjuring images of creatures of the night associated with evil, such as the bat, Black Hecate, the goddess of witchcraft, and the shard-born or dung-born beetle, suggesting the affinity that he feels with the weird sisters. Ere the bat hath flown his cloistered flight, ere to Black Hecate's summons the shard-born beetle with his drowsy hums hath rung night's yawning peal, there shall be done a deed of dreadful note. When Lady Macbeth asks for clarification, Macbeth, however, is coy, merely telling her, "Be innocent of the knowledge, dearest Chuck, till thou applaud the deed." So not only was Lady Macbeth not present when Macbeth was dealing with the murderers, which we would expect because that would be inappropriate, but it becomes clear that she has no knowledge of Macbeth's latest plan at all. Up until this point it has been a joint enterprise, but now Macbeth is striking out on his own, and Lady Macbeth is becoming more and more sidelined. He then directly addresses the sealing night to scarf up the tender eye of pitiful day, and with thy bloody and invisible hand cancel and tear to pieces that great bond which keeps me pale. Macbeth personifies the night here as a falconer. Sealing refers to the stitching up of a young bird's eyelids during training, and evokes the way in which the tender eye of pitiful day, or the sun, is blinded by the night. Once more, Macbeth hopes to exploit the cover of darkness to conceal his crimes. Note the violence of his language here, which evokes a bird of prey tearing into its victim with its talons, to communicate the way in which he will be freed from the threat of Banquo, which keeps him pale or fenced in. It's getting dark, he says. Light thickens and the crow makes wing for the rooky wood. And while good things of the day begin to droop and drowse, those wicked creatures, night's black agents, which hunt their prey by night, are beginning to wake. Lady Macbeth is clearly looking confused and disturbed by what he is saying. Thou marvellest at my words. But he tells her to just carry on doing what she's been doing, as things bad begun make strong themselves by ill. In other words, enterprises that originate in evil only become stronger with more evil. They both exit. Act 3, Scene 3 is a very brief one and opens some distance from Macbeth's castle. Enter 3 murderers. As proof of his ever-increasing paranoia, Macbeth has sent a 3rd murderer to join the original 2 that he engaged in Act 3, Scene 1. He clearly doesn't trust the 2 to get the job done, which they seem more than aware of. Their noses out of joint because Macbeth has already given them very clear instructions and they know exactly what they have to do. He needs not our mistrust, since he delivers our offices and what we have to do to the direction just. They decide, however, to just get on with it because time is against them and Banquo is on his way. The west yet glimmers with some streaks of day. Now spurs the lated traveller apace to gain the timely inn, and near approaches the subject of our watch. Enter Banquo and Fleance with a torch. The action moves quite quickly now as the murderers scramble to ascertain that it is indeed Banquo and his son and get ready to strike. A light, a light! 'Tis he. Stand to it. Banquo is not expecting the ambush, evident from his small talk with his son about the weather. It will be rain tonight. Note how the first murderer, seamlessly finishing the line, changes Banquo's meaning from the literal to the metaphorical as he announces the attack. Let it, i.e. the rain, come down. The murder is swift, leaving Banquo only enough time to urge his son to escape so that he may seek vengeance at a later date. O treachery! Fly, good Fleance, fly, fly, fly! Thou mayest revenge, O slave! The epizeuxis, jagged rhythm and shortened lines evoking the unexpected violence of the assault. So for all the murderers complaining that they do not deserve Macbeth's mistrust because the instructions he gave them were very clear, it seems they have messed up after all, with rubs and botches aplenty, as putting out the light has led to Fleance's escape in the darkness. Who did strike out the light? Was not the way? There's but one down, the sun is fled. We have lost best half of our affair. They decide to go back to the castle to face the music and tell Macbeth how much is done. They exit with Banquo's body. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments section below and I'll do my best to answer them. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more videos on English language topics and exam techniques and English literature texts.